Welcome back to FastGadgets. News for today with Linux. Well, it's somewhat old news. It's actually a few days old, but something that I wanted to cover nevertheless. Canonical has decided that they are going to switch away from the Unity desktop interface to GNOME, and many people are reacting and they're very shocked, and I really don't know why they're so shocked. Of course, this is my personal opinion, but looking at Canonical, you have to remember that Canonical is a business and their job is to make money. They chose one of the hardest products to make money on, which is, of course, open source. In order to make money, they've got a couple of choices. One, they can have a product that's highly marketable that they can get people to buy, which is not Ubuntu, unfortunately. It's open source, and when your model for your business is based on open source, it's actually very difficult to make money from it. Now, I'm sure they do make money in a couple of different ways. I know that previous versions of Ubuntu had software that was installed, like Amazon and things like that, that would help them raise some money. I'm sure that they do support for workstations or servers for companies that are actually using their technology to make money off it. But the reality is, with open source, it is difficult to make money. So it doesn't surprise me at all that they're switching to GNOME. If you think about it, they can reduce their development costs and possibly lay some people off. I know that sounds awful, but this is something that's critical for a business to be able to streamline their organization and save as much money as possible while still offering a good product. On the other hand, with Ubuntu, it does unfortunately make it just another distro, and I'm not saying only the desktop interface is the mitigating factor. There's other things in Ubuntu that are really awesome too, but could you get it from Debian with the GNOME interface? You have to ask yourself that. I've seen a lot of distros come and go, change, like Mandrake and Mandriva. I really liked Mandrake Linux years back when it first came out, and I did switch from Fedora. Actually, it was Red Hat at the time. It wasn't even Fedora yet. And I thought, wow, this is really cool. And then, development just kind of waned, and they weren't really doing much on it. When I checked back years later, after going back to Fedora, I discovered that it had become Mandriva, and I really didn't want to try another distribution at that point. And I've found that the what I call source distributions are usually the ones that are going to continue development, and they're most likely to be the most stable and probably the best. Again, that's just my opinion. I consider one of the sources to be Fedora. Another one is Debian, Slackware as well. There's all these different flavors out there that, developmentally speaking, are stable. Now, I'm not sure what to say about Ubuntu. I know that, well, Canonical, actually, let's talk about the company. I know that they tried to drive into the cell phone market with the Unity interface basically being this homogeneous interface between cell phones and computers, and it really didn't touch the right nerve with buyers, and there really weren't a whole lot of applications available that people would find useful on their phone. And with Android literally dominating the market share, followed closely by the iPhone, it wasn't really something that was going to work out. It kind of reminds me of the whole Firefox thing with Mozilla phones. It really didn't work out, although they were novel. It would be nice to see an open source environment, but it's hard for a company to get into hardware and be open source at the same time. The reason is they're not able to license their operating system, so if they're developing hardware, it would truly have to be something unique, like basically a Mac or an iPhone, something that would drive customers to say, yeah, I'm willing to switch from the iPhone or an Android and go over to this other technology, and that really never happened. The other factor is hardware manufacturers, although some of them do offer Ubuntu on a computer, honestly, it's very rare. Those of us who install the operating system ourselves are the ones that are actually driving it. But how many of us have actually paid for support from Ubuntu or Canonical or buy any other services from Canonical? Canonical has mentioned that its major focus now will be its cloud network, and What exactly are they offering? Well, it looks like here that they're saying, since they were critical in the development of OpenStack, which of course is available anywhere, they're saying that their infrastructure services are probably the best if you're looking to use Linux for cloud services and infrastructure. It's really the only other trick they have in the bag is cloud services. Now they're saying that if you use Ubuntu Advantage and you do your cloud through them, they'll provide access, and they have 24/7 support and management software that can help you lay out your cloud services. And they do have some interesting customers: Wikimedia Commons, Samsung, Google, Windows Azure, which surprises me, Intel, eBay, Cisco. So quite a few companies there that are relying on their support services. So technically speaking, it looks to me like the desktop environment is now least critical, and it's not bringing in money. So to continue to develop and maintain the Unity desktop, which honestly I thought would be a smaller component and a smaller cost center for the company, apparently is large enough that if they get rid of it, they can focus and shift more of their attention onto cloud services, where it sounds like they're making more money. I understand why they did it in some respects, and you'll see it on the comments if you go to Mark Shuttleworth's blog. He mentions that, you know, it's something that we have to do, and somebody commented right away. They said, you know, our concern, actually it looks like many more people have commented, so the one I was looking at's moved down, but basically the person commented and said it just makes Ubuntu just another desktop like every other Linux. From Canonical's standpoint, they really aren't that concerned about it because the desktop innovation really hasn't driven their core business. Apparently that's what it looks like to me. It's easy for them to switch to GNOME since they are very close. I know Unity has some really cool features in it, like the keyboard shortcuts and things like that, so there were some critical differences, but I think GNOME is close enough as far as the desktop environment, so it's a logical shift for them. Plus they already have Ubuntu with GNOME on it developed, and it's ready to go, so it really isn't going to cost them anything to switch over, and it will reduce expenses in the long run. So that's my take on what's going on with Canonical and Ubuntu. Curious about your comments and what you think. Would you consider switching to Debian now that Ubuntu is more akin to another Linux distribution? As always, I will see you on the next video. If you really enjoyed the video, consider sharing it. Thank you very much. I'll see you next time.